Good morning. Happy August 2nd. Here we are, the eighth month in 2024, and it's been a banger thus far. I talked, earlier this week about how this week was going to be absolutely insane, and it has definitely delivered, right? Volatility galore. And we got even more data points just over the course of last night. But yesterday's movement kind of made it even look like an afterthought, even though you had Apple, one of the most valuable companies in the world, Amazon, one of the most valuable companies in the world, right? We've got more employment type data with non-farm payrolls coming in, right? We've still got all this data left. And it seems like, how the heck do we still have that much important stuff going on this week? But we do, because that's just the type of week that it is. So we're going to go in, break that down, and, really do a little quick deep dive into what happened yesterday, right? The sentiment right now and moving forward, and then go forward from there. But good morning. Welcome to the pre-market prep session. This is where we go over all the important news, notes, analysis, trade ideas, um, mindsets, right? The ways that you break down the information that you hear, how you're supposed to execute the expectations you're supposed to come into the week with, right? All of that we go over here, and it is invaluable information, especially on weeks like this. We talked about how we could get, some chop until we got the big pieces of data. We got chop, right? We went some up, we went some down. We had the Fed day, right? We have a certain way in which we handle Fed days. Um, and we had a number of reflecting back on the week, right? A number of good plays that worked out very, very finely, right? And then we've got BAC yesterday that gets swamped out by the selling that occurs because of kind of the results and the data that we got that morning. But the information and explanation that was delivered here at the beginning of the week really, really came in clutch and really, really rings true. Because on weeks like this, right, making sure that you manage risk and all of that in order to dance around all the different landmines is key. Because we found out this week that employment data now matters again because of the data that we got and in the context of what Powell said the day before, right? So we got tons of stuff that happened this week, tons of fun stuff, tons of things to learn from, right? And we're gonna cap it off seeing exactly what we get here this morning after we had two huge behemoths report earnings, and then we've got more news coming down the pipeline and data as well. So we're here to get 1% better each and every day. Make sure you set your intention and do exactly that, right? There are those ones in the chat, whether you're watching live or you're joining us from the future, right? Those ones in the chat signifying your intention to get 1% better, because nothing happens that you can replicate without doing it with intention. So let's dive into what we got today on this fine morning. Let me see what we got here. All right, now top news, take a bearing. August has begun with a bang, with the Dow ending the first session of the month down almost 500 points. Note that's only a 1.2% decline, but the sell-off yesterday also hit the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq and the Russell 2000. Volatility is making an appearance as markets try to size up the economic landscape, while the 10-year Treasury yield slid below 4% for the first time since February. What happened? Things seemed to be celebratory on Wednesday after Fed Chair Jay Powell announced that a September rate cut was on the table, but that message took on a different tone as new economic data was published. Initial jobless claims advanced the most since August 2023, right, which isn't a good thing, while the PMI and ISM manufacturing indexes signaled an economic contraction. So we got two bad pieces of data in the PMI and ISM info that we got during market hours at 9:45 a.m. at 10 a.m. And then we also got initial jobless claims that had advanced the most since August of 2023. So it's the worst numbers that we've gotten in a year, right? Worst numbers that we've gotten in a while. And essentially what those numbers conveyed is, okay, Powell has been saying we're trying to balance it and make sure that, we don't wait too long to decrease rates before we start seeing essentially recessionary pressures take place. And what that data showed is that he might have waited too long, right? So people are scared that, hey, the Fed is slipping on its other portion of its two-part job, right? The Fed has two jobs: keep inflation near 2% and maintain full employment, right? And without, having to worry about employment and pressure on the employment market, they've just been focusing completely on interest rates. But now they're seeing that, oh, okay, now the employment market is starting to weaken, and we might have held rates too high for too long. Um, so what I think that does is causes another, overreaction I think that might lend itself to Powell doing a 50 basis point cut as opposed to a 25 basis point cut, like he said he would. I feel like if this is something that feels like makes the Fed feel like they're behind the ball and they've got to play catch up, they either do more cuts than just the three that are currently priced in, or it's higher magnitude in the cut. So that's how you want to be digesting this information, right? Um, we were able to have an amazing record-breaking July, right, with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of profit made in that month because of the way that we break down the information, right? Because of the mindset with which we process information. So processing information is by far the most important part of you trading and operating in markets, right? For us to crush IWM and all these other tickers, right? Crypto tickers, commodities tickers, like for us to big tech, right? Energy, banks, for us to crush all of these different tickers, just boom, 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 100%, 300%, 500%. All the way, we had pharmaceuticals, right? We had like far deep in the crevice of the market AI stocks that killed it for us. So in all of these different sectors, right, how are we able to go through and bring home these big profits, these huge percentage profits, withdraw them and pay ourselves and go about living our happy lives and do so consistently to the point where you could trade for July and not trade for the rest of the year, right? At this point, milestones and goals were hit where you've hit your goal for the next few months in 1 month. How does that happen, right? It happens based off of the mindset, how you understand and break down information. And that's what you hone here, right? It's the thought processes, right? It's the pathways with which your neurons fire in order to have you think a certain way. That's what you hone here. Yeah, it doesn't happen magically or just by chance. It happens because you're somewhere where okay, you're starting to hone a certain thought process in the way that you break down information, and then that starts to become your mindset. But that doesn't happen without you doing the little things, right? So it's as little as throwing a one in the chat, as little as setting alerts, as little as recreating charts, as little as you taking the time to set reminders of when to check in on things for markets, right? Taking the time to wake up a bit earlier to have this session be a continuous part of your day. All of those are little things that help establish the mindset in order to make you a winner in markets. And a winner does not mean that you only win, right? A winner means that you win larger than you lose, and you also conduct yourself in a way that you make sure that you don't squander the wins. There's so much more to winning than just winning itself, right? It's not hard to make money. It is hard to keep money. Hands down. Ask anybody who's ever made it. It's not hard to make it. It is hard to keep it. Same thing with, athletes and musicians and this, that, and the third. It is the toughest to keep it. And the way that you keep it is through mindset. So as we go through and we talk about, okay, this is what happened, right? This is the result when we talk about, Powell said he was going to be data dependent and didn't think that they had waited too long in order to consider cutting rates. Now it's looking like they waited too long. So what does the market do? Knee jerk reaction. Boom, we start selling. Right, complete overhaul of sentiment. Very bullish the day before. Complete overhaul of sentiment with big bearish volume coming in. Right now, our job now is to see, okay, where do we normalize? Right, where do things sort of return to net neutral? And then what are the longer standing effects? I think the longer standing knock on effects of this are going to be bullish. Because again, if the whole world it's looking like, oh, Powell waited too long, now he's gonna have to kick it into gear. And that means extra bullishness around the corner, right down the line in the latter half of the year. With those cuts coming in September, that meeting being in the middle of the month, it's looking solid. For August, we don't know what that means, right? For August, it could be, between now and over the course of the next month. That was when a lot of that bearish volume took place, right? Where the expirations were. So it was really covering a lot of short term potential downside. And we already talked about yesterday during the Q&A session exactly what to expect out of August and what we've seen in the past and kind of what the game plan looks like in terms of shining off the crystal ball, right? To see how we can move moving forward. The crystal ball was glistening last night, and we put in some good work. So let's see here. The weak data is now triggering some worries the Fed may fall behind the curve, with the US becoming the last major central bank in the West to embark on an easing cycle. That's at least one of the narratives, which is even bringing back a word that hasn't been heard for a while, which is recession. The other is that the soft landing is going according to schedule, but a healthy summer pullback or even a correction is due following stretched valuations, especially for mega caps in tech sectors like semiconductors. Yeah, and that's the thing, is that if even if the S&P drops, significantly from where it is now, that is a an amazing spot, right? An amazing spot to be in for a lot of people that miss the first load the boat signal. So again, nothing is ever arbitrarily good or bad. If I'm in puts and stocks go up, that's bad for me. If I'm in calls and stocks go down, that's bad for me, right? The movement itself is not negative at all, or really anything to be scared about or sad about. It's really just, okay, let me regain my bearings and then make sure that I'm on the right side of the next move, not chasing the last move. Um, so let's see here. Quote, the economy shows resilience with 2.8% GDP growth in the second quarter, wrote Seeking Alpha investing group leader Lawrence Fuller. Quote, most importantly, consumer spending rose 2.3% and was the largest contributor to growth. Despite some signs of fatigue, the consumer is alive and well. Next up, the July non-farm payrolls report is due out at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time as Fed policymakers shift more attention to the maximum employment part of the central bank's mandate compared to inflation and wages, which is what I just talked about. Economists are not expecting a huge shift in the jobs number for May. The consensus estimate is for 176,000, but recently revisions have been shifting downward. The employment rate is also expected to stay at 4.1%, but anything higher than that can trigger concerns, especially with the figure climbing from a low of 3.4% over the past year. So employment making its way back into, that's the big takeaway from this week, even apart from the earnings and Powell statements and all of the myriad of things that happened this week to make it the volatile week that we expected, right? We didn't expect it to be an easy week. We said, hey, this is literally going to be the toughest, craziest week that we're going to get. And it was exactly that, right? Tough all over the place, crazy, uncontrolled, volatile movement, low volume movement to start the week, faking a lot of people out. So the fact that we were still able to go in and do nice day trades on AMD and have the meta, set up for meta day trades come through and pay yesterday, or, the AMD earnings play come through and pay for us, right? Having all these different things that worked, there's going to be things on a week like this that don't work. What you got to make sure is that you're managing yourself so that they don't kill you when right? If someone says, hey, there's a flood coming through here, you take some precautions, right, to make sure you're not losing everything to the flood. And that's exactly what this week was. And I'm happy that we were on the right side and on the cutting edge of the mindset necessary to tackle a week like this week instead of getting tackled, right? That's the key. Sometimes it's just straight up survival when you've got that movie Twister, right? When you got a twister that's coming through, and this was absolutely a twister. So, yeah, we'll continue to look at the data, all that good stuff, and we'll continue crushing markets. That's all you can do. Tech news, latest earnings. It looks like tech is leading another sell off today following disappointing guidance that dragged shares of Intel down 21%. It's tough because I almost played Intel earnings. Intel is like the worst of like the AI chip stocks, and people say, "Oh, like Intel is fine, zoom out, look at the 10-year chart." Have you looked at the 10-year chart for Intel, my friend? It's not sexy, right? So for all my people that are like Intel is just undervalued, like they're going to be out here and they're going to be crushing the game, not really, right? Intel's larger like chart is not good looking at all. So don't let somebody tell you that. Whoever's saying that is probably a dinosaur. If you look at Intel's chart, they had a big, weekly/monthly rising wedge. They fell out of that, then they bear flagged, and then they put in a shooting star here on the weekly 3 weeks ago, and since then they've gone down accordingly. Nothing good looking about that chart, right? I just dissected it in 10 seconds, and literally it is bearish on the monthly, it is bearish on the weekly, and I told you exactly why it was bearish down to the most recent candlesticks, right? So there's nothing sexy about Intel, and it had some put volume coming in, but I tried not to make it a habit of playing earnings. We had our earnings play this week. We doubled our money overnight on AMD. AMD also came through in the day trade. No reason for us to force it on INTC, but it's tough when you see it drop 20%. It's like, oh, I already didn't really like you as a company, but now it's like I had the chance to short you too. But I just feel like this, again, resetting after crazy tumultuous action is most important. So that's what I'm aiming to do here, reset. But Amazon also 8% lower in early trading on Friday. Intel is also laying off 15% of its workforce and suspending its dividend to cut costs as the company struggles to keep up in the AI chip race. Yeah, they're like last, dead last. But you can see here more layoffs coming, right? Layoffs aren't slowing down. They're not slowing down at all. Learn how to put your money to work for you in markets. Mandate number one. Actually, they're just dual mandates of equal importance. Mandate number two, learn how to utilize AI in a way that can help increase your personal and professional value, right? Your capacity to get work done, your capacity to get a higher caliber of work done and get it done faster. You need to know how to do all of that using AI tools, right? Which is part of what Kaizen is about and what AIM is about now, continuously moving forward. So make sure you're putting the work in, right? Being in the environment isn't enough. You've got to make sure you're putting the work in. So for anybody who's, behind on your AIM homework assignments, anything like that, get those in, right? Do those exercises, submit questions, make sure that you are doing your part to stay ahead of this curve because there is an amazing, amazing, amazing cache of resources that are available when it comes to implementing AI, right? But you've got to make sure that you're doing your part just a little bit each and every day. If you take a little bit and devote it toward the market, a little bit you devote it toward AI, and you do so daily, you're going to be fine, right? Even if it's 30 minutes, even if it's 30 minutes or if it's an hour, right? If you take those 2 hours that you watch TV and you take an hour off of it, 30 minutes market, just checking around different stocks, 30 minutes, you know, um, AI and learning AI and going through and watching these videos and setting this up, right? You take 30 minutes each day, it'll change your life. You turn that into an hour, it'll exponentially change your life. It's just a matter of pulling the time, right? And really, really wanting it like you say you want it and executing on it. Because Intel will not be the last of companies that continue these layoffs. It's only up from here, right? And then you've got people who worked 20 years at Intel, right? Who are now entering the unemployment pool. So you might be sitting here like, man, again, that's the tough thing is that when these tech companies lay these people off, it's like, oh, who are you competing against? So and so who went to Harvard and worked at Meta for 10 years, or this guy who went to Yale and worked at Amazon for 8 years. It's like what the heck are you supposed to do? That's why you got to know different ways they could say, hey, they might have done this, but I built this for you. Hey, why? And I'm sending this along with my resume, right? This is something that could do X, Y, Z for you, and I built it, and here's how it works. There you go. People don't care where you went to college, then. They don't care if it was, University of Phoenix online, whatever. If you show value up front, you can execute, they'll pay you. But yeah, what's crazy too about Amazon going down is Amazon beat, right? Amazon and Apple both beat on earnings and Amazon's still down 8%. Meanwhile, Amazon warned of cautious consumer spending weighing on sales and expects to spend even more on AI, sparking concerns about the returns on those investments. So that's really why it's 8% lower here. A small bright spot was Apple, which ticked up 0.6%. Wow. Barely anything. After hours, its results were not as bad as feared, even as iPhone sales continued to decline. So that was kind of the latest on the tech earnings front, which normally would be the biggest news of the week, but now seems kind of like a footnote because this week was so chock full of stuff. Global news, election outcome. The U.S. has officially recognized Edmundo Gonzalez as the winner of Venezuela's presidential election, citing overwhelming evidence and rejecting the electoral authority's declaration that President Nicolas Maduro won 51% of the vote. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken added that the National Electoral Council's quick declaration came without disaggregated data or any of the vote tally sheets. Meanwhile, Venezuela's opposition said it published more than 80% of receipts received from polling stations, which it claimed showed Gonzalez, whose team has since gone into hiding, winning 2/3 of the vote. Yeah, it's a mess, right? It's a mess. And the U.S. says that we, recognize Edmundo. I mean, I feel like that's a you know better strategy than working with Maduro. I mean, like I get it, things get tight, and what we don't. It's funny how like and he is a bad person. This guy is a bad person, hands down. But it's funny how like now you see people that are like posting about yeah, this is going on in Venezuela and Maduro this, but then those same people that were complaining about gas prices being high didn't say a thing. We went and bought more oil from this guy who was literally cutting heads off, right? And we said, oh, well, we don't want to go to Iran and we can't go to Russia, so we've got to go to this guy. right? And I'm not the president. I don't do any of this. I'm glad that I don't have to make these decisions, but it's just like understand that pretty much all this crusty stuff in the world is connected. So when you say, "Oh man, I hate this. I wish this would get better," the way that that gets better a lot of times is doing something bad on the other end of that, you know? So I think we all as humans just have to get to a point where you understand that probably anything positive that happens to you has a negative repercussion somewhere else. Oh, gas prices went down. How did gas prices go down? We had to go to this guy that literally cuts off people's heads and rigs elections and sends the opposition into hiding because that is the only place that we can get more gas. Right? And this happens each and every day, right? It's like the more you learn, the more you recognize how little you know, and in order to just completely lose faith in existence itself, you literally just have to focus on your family, your loved ones, and what matters most to you. Because if you focus on what negatively affects everything, it's an ongoing domino effect that really never ends. Right? It's exponential in nature. So at some point, everyone's going to be a hypocrite. At some point, everyone is going to have to dip their toes into something they don't want to be involved in. But yeah, right now, if you didn't know what was going on, it's absolutely crazy. And, I'm praying for the whole country of Venezuela and all the people that are there because it's a madhouse and they got to get this guy out of office. And, the US is trying to do what they can. They're probably tired of dealing with him too. Um, but yeah, they control a lot, right? They control a lot of oil, so of course the U.S. is sticking our head in that. Crypto sentiment. Let's see here. There have been many headlines in recent weeks coming out of the crypto sector, like the launch of spot Ether ETFs and the first major party presidential candidate to fully embrace the industry. Let's see here. Seeking Alpha pulled over 1,000 subscribers in the run up to the latest cycle in early June and again in late July, with more investors seeing crypto as a store of value. Uh, the most significant change saw a nearly 10 basis point increase from 15 to 24% for new holders of crypto in their portfolio, bolstered by new spot ETFs that were seen as the most popular form of crypto investment. Yeah, definitely a slow news day if they feel like pointing that out. In terms of today's market, it's looking mostly like a sea of red outside of gold and Bitcoin, right, which are kind of your alternative stores of value to stocks and equities. In Asia, Japan down 5.8%, Hong Kong down 2.1, China down 0.9%, India down 1.1. The footy in London down 0.3, Paris down 0.6, Frankfurt down 1.5%, Dow down 0.9%, S&P down 1.1%, Nasdaq down 1.6%. Crude oil flat, gold up 1.1, Bitcoin up 0.3. Let's see what else is happening. NFL's $4.7 billion verdict in Sunday ticket case tossed out by judge. Snap shares plunged 23% on light earnings guidance. Once again, it's literally always, and I always forget, if you just buy puts before Snap earnings, you will probably bank, right? More often than not, if you just look up whenever Snapchat's earnings are and you buy puts, you'll be fine. I forget to do it like every earnings season, but if you just like put it in your calendar, if you look it up now and just add them all in your calendar and you just buy puts, it won't work every time, but the majority of the times it will work because Snapchat sucks, right? And I think they might have gotten one like earnings beat recently, yeah, where they gapped up and it was because of like AI and stuff, and it was like the hype. Um, but yeah, now they're back to doing what they do best, which is underperform. Let's see here. Coinbase in chart subscription revenue continues to grow. Eli Lilly, ticker LLY CEO, says weight loss drug shortage is ending. FTC to investigate soaring. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Yeah, nice little bounce here. Yeah, actually looking like a great time to get back in Eli Lilly longs currently. Fired that amazing weekly bull flag that paid us for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, right? We retraced breakout at 794.47. Perfect time to slide in some Lilly long swing calls 3 months out, right? Eli Lilly, the Michael Jordan of pharmaceutical stocks. It's had a horrible 2 weeks, which is literally such a gift because the only time you ever really hear about it is when it's just going straight up and you're like, oh, I've missed Eli Lilly again. And now you got the opportunity, right? And we're putting in what looks like it could shape up to be a weekly hammer here, depending on how we close today. So We're sitting at what, 820 and like 800, 794 is that breakout area, 794.47. Perfect spot to slide in some really long swing calls right here, right? Calling it timestamp August 2nd, 2024. FTC to investigate soaring grocery prices and retailer profits. Roblox falls as CFO exit overshadows raised forecast. Warren Buffett's Berkshire sells more B of A stock, right? BAC stock. No shock, right? He was in the same trade that we were in. We took profit. He's got to take profit over a longer time period because he owns millions of shares, right? So when he takes profit, it's long profit taking. AB InBev, ticker Bud, profit soars as key brands show momentum. DoorDash, ticker Dash, rallies on double-digit gains in revenue and orders, which is crazy because I feel like DoorDash is even more expensive like now. Like I'm not a person that is actively like noticing when price changes happen. Like I feel like my grandma when gas goes up at one place, she's like, "Did you see gas went up by 5 cents at this?" And I'm like, "No, girl, I do not clock gas prices at my local stations." But then you get certain things and you realize like the price is going up. Like that's me. Like I'm not a big door dasher. I like to cook. I cook a lot. I think it's obviously healthier to cook for yourself, but it's also fun and therapeutic. So I don't DoorDash a lot, but I did like recently, and I think it was when we were at the beach, and I literally ordered like just pizza, pizza for everyone, and something else. It wasn't even a lot of stuff, and it was like 200 something bucks. And I was like, bro, it wasn't like what you think when it was like a lot of pizza. It was only a few of us. I might have gotten like a one large, one medium, a salad, and then some wings, and it was like 200 something bucks. And I was like, this hit harder than it used to. But it's causing them to have these double digit gains, right? In revenue and on orders. So it's people like me that's paying it. Earnings summary, Spirit Airlines, save results, outlook disappoints. So save is their ticker. But basically, I guess their outlook disappoints. They said that they're trying to like make a shift toward more luxury planes. Spirit and luxury don't really go in the same sentence together, but I think they're trying to make them synonymous. So hey, hats off to the pivot. Do your thing, Spirit. Do your thing. But that wraps us up here. Our second pre-market prep session of August. I'm ready. I'm ready for an exciting month. I'm ready for a volatile month, and I'm ready for each and everything in between. Why? Because we're here getting 1% better daily, making sure that we close the gap between where we are and where we're supposed to be. All right. So have a great weekend, have a safe weekend, and make sure you're doing exactly that. Even if it's 30 minutes or an hour, put that time in the areas where you are being told explicitly, right? A lot of people say, I don't know what to do. Once you know what to do, it's just on you to do it. So now that you know what to do, all you got is the easy part that's left, executing. Take 1 hour, turn off your phone, right? I'm famous for that. I'll throw my phone on D&D and not check it for 2 hours, right? That's why I have everybody hit me up on Messenger if you need me, because that's where it'll pop up on my computer. My phone, I'll throw it on D&D and sit it in another room, right? And go about my day. Throw your phone on D&D, tell everybody don't disturb you, go in your office, go in a corner of your place, wherever you are, right? Go to a cafe, whatever, and just invest in yourself, right? Invest in yourself. 30 minutes, an hour, and do it in the morning. Earn that Saturday tomorrow, earn your Sunday, right? You can do it. That's where winners are made. And let's get it. Have a great weekend, right? I'll see you guys back here on Monday morning for our next pre market prep session. Have a good one. Peace.